Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video we're going to be having a chit chat about the Sony ZV-1 compact digital camera. Hopefully it helps you to make a decision about whether or not to get the camera. If you have a decent enough smartphone that has a good quality camera, you do not need a digital camera or a DSLR camera. But if you want to take your photography and your videography journey to the next level and you want to improve on your skills, then I highly recommend that you get yourself a camera, because trust me, playing around with a phone and using it to record and playing around with the camera and using it to record are two completely different things. If you're going to commit to getting any camera at all, whether the Sony ZV-1 or the Canon camera, make sure that you are ready to commit to using the camera. Make sure that you are ready to learn about it. Make sure you are ready to explore with it. Otherwise, I highly recommend that you stick to your smartphone. The Sony ZV-1, unlike a DSLR camera, is a compact camera. What it means is that you don't attach any lens to it, and you can pretty much do everything with just that one device. So I got this camera about 8 months ago, so that makes me an expert in it, right? No guys, I'm kidding. So the first thing that I find appealing about this camera is the size. Just as the name implies, it's a compact camera, okay? I kid you not, you can fit this camera into your pocket. You can fit this camera into like a little purse. I find this camera useful when I'm going out, maybe to have lunch or going for an event and I don't want to be conspicuous. This camera is so tiny that if you pull it out to take your pictures or record your videos, you would hardly get noticed, as opposed to using like my huge DSLR camera with the huge lens. Like, it's going to draw a lot of attention to yourself. I cannot emphasize the importance of shooting or making sure that you're taking your pictures and recording your videos in the highest resolution possible, whether you're using it for your website or you're using it on social media. I find that once the quality of your pictures and your videos is like up there, those content tend to do a lot better. So I appreciate this camera for having the capacity to shoot 4K videos and take like raw pictures, especially if you're going to the post-processing. Oh my goodness. Whenever I take a picture with my phone or take a JPEG picture, for example, and I'm trying to apply a preset or, do some post-processing on those pictures or videos, I just don't like the way it looks. But when I record in 4K and I take my pictures in RAW, the sky literally is your starting point. You could do pretty much anything with that quality of content. So that is another pro of this camera. The quality of the content, the videos, your pictures is like top notch. In fact, I'm using it to record right now. So I don't know, let me know in the comment section below what you think about the quality of this footage. I already know it's good because, So my number 3 pro about this camera, especially for my vloggers, is the fact that it has a flip screen. You want to see yourself. You want to be sure that you're placed or positioned properly in front of the camera. You want to be sure that the footage that you're recording is usable. I cannot sometimes, oh my goodness, especially if I'm recording with my phone, for instance, and I'm using the back camera. When I watch it, I'm just like, no, I can't use this. So it's definitely a pro that you can see yourself, because you have the flip screen right there. It also helps you to be sure, to ensure that you are recording exactly what you want to record, that you look good while you're recording, because that's important as well. And it just gives you that confidence that your footage or your video is going to turn out right, or your picture. So yeah, that's an absolute pro about this camera. My number 4 pro about this camera is the fact that it has a microphone jack. I always emphasize on the quality of audio as well. If people cannot hear you, it tends to take away from your video. So I don't know if you guys have watched a few of my recent videos. I am very, very big on sound. I like to capture the authentic sound that comes from my environment. But apart from the fact that it has like a little muffler, I don't know what it's called, but those things, that noise cancellation thing on the top, I always go a step further, especially if I'm doing like a sit down chit chat video or I'm recording sound, to attach my wireless microphone to it so that you guys can hear my audio very well. I love ASMR. I love recording ASMR. I love listening to ASMR. So yeah, it's a plus that this has a microphone Guys, is it a microphone jack, like the little hole? I call it a microphone jack, but somebody corrected me, or someone was asking me if that's what I meant. But I'm talking about the little hole where you can actually plug your microphone. At least that's what I use. I plug my microphone into my camera when I'm recording, so that you guys get that crisp, clean audio. Of course, another pro is the fact that it has a Wi-Fi function. I cannot emphasize how amazing this function is, especially if you are like me and you like to take your pictures by yourself. I don't know, am I the only one? I don't know, just let me know who enjoys taking their photograph by themselves. There are only a handful of people, a few people who have actually, including professional photographers, who have photographed me, and I'm happy about the results. So I like to take my pictures by myself. The Wi-Fi function allows me to connect my smartphone using the Sony imaging app. I think I have a video on this channel where I show you how I connect my 1300D. It's pretty much the same thing, but if you guys want me to do a demo using this camera, then I'm more than happy to do it for you. But that wouldn't be a lengthy video. I think I'll just make it a short. Another pro of this camera is the zoom function. The lens is 24mm to 70mm, which is pretty decent if you're going to be doing, say for instance, landscape photography. I actually enjoy using this camera for like random content creation sprees where I just go out and I see something nice, maybe a landscape or a building, and I take it. The amount of detail you could take in with that sort of lens is so. I took a little break, guys. It's cold. Now that we are done with the pros, let's talk about the cons. The one thing that just makes me like, why, is the battery life. For somebody like me who likes to shoot in 4K, I find that once I'm in about 25 to 30 minutes, I lose like battery function, the camera goes off. That's the one thing that this camera is lacking, prolonged battery life. But it's nothing that cannot be solved. So when I was buying the camera, the shop attendant who attended to me advised me to get a spare battery. So if you're going to be getting this camera, I highly recommend that you get a spare battery or two, so that if you're out filming content and the battery dies, you can just swap it out. Another thing that I've observed about the camera that might be a con is the fact that sometimes, you know, when I'm trying to be so still, maybe an inch or a tick and I move, my footage tends to be shaky. But there's always a solution to this problem, okay? You could actually get a handheld gimbal or device stabilizer. That's the one thing I even want to invest in. We're booting. Guys, I just had to swap out my battery while I was recording. So yeah, these are the issues. What did I stop? I was saying something about, what was I talking about? Yeah, I can't remember. But yeah, all in all, this is not a bad compact camera to have, especially if you are a newbie at creating content. Another thing that people consider a pro is the price point of this camera. I believe it ranges from between $640 to about $700, and people seem to think that is a reasonable price. I get that because guys, the price of camera in the market is not smiling, especially if you're going for a more professional DSLR camera. So if you have the money and you're ready to commit to learning the camera, I highly recommend that you go ahead and get it. So guys, before I go, just as an added bonus, I'm going to show you how you can adjust the settings of this camera to suit the purpose or suit the ambience that you're looking for. So right now I am in manual mode, that is manual photography mode. So to change the ISO, all you need to do is press the function button right here. So once you push that, you have all of these functions that you can change. So for ISO, I like to set to 800 when I am filming indoors. The higher you set your ISO, the lower the quality of your picture. So to set your shutter speed, all you need to do is to rotate the dial. So as you can see, I am rotating clockwise. It gets darker when you rotate clockwise. As I am rotating anti-clockwise, it's getting lighter. Typically, your shutter speed settings will depend on how much light you have available in your filming area. So for the purposes of this demo, I'm going to leave it at 1/50 To set your aperture, all you need to do is to press the lower part of the dial. Once you press the dial, it moves your selection from your shutter selection to your aperture selection. The higher you go, the darker it becomes. The lower you go, the brighter it becomes. The settings of your aperture should depend on how much blurriness you want in the background. The lower your aperture is set to, the more blurriness you get. The higher the settings of your aperture, the less blurriness you are able to achieve. At the moment, I am in the manual photography mode, but you could definitely do the same thing with your video recording. So if you look right here, this is your manual settings for your videos, but you could also use the automatic settings, which is the intelligent auto settings. But I've found that when I stick to using the manual settings for either recording my videos or taking my pictures, I get the best quality. Even within the manual settings, you have the option of picking the kind of exposure that you want. So there is the program auto, which pretty much sets your aperture and your shutter speed, and then you could play around with the ISO settings and then your white balance. There is the aperture priority mode as well, the shutter priority mode as well. It just depends on what you're going for. But the beauty about this camera is that with each setting, you get a description of what it does. So it just makes learning the camera easier. To set your shutter, all you need to do is rotate the dial. As you guys can see, the next thing is your aperture. To set your aperture, all you need to do is press the lower part of the dial and then rotate the dial. And then to set your ISO, all you need to do is press the function button, and then you have your ISO right there, and then you click on it and select the ISO that you're looking for. I also like to play around with the white balance because sometimes you just want a different kind of ambience. So in order to do this, all you need to do is to push the function button, and then once you get to this part, you can see all of these settings. It is this one right here, that is where you set your white balance. So there is the automatic white balance, daylight, shade, pretty much different styles and settings that you could choose from. So quickly, before we go, let us take a look at the top bit of the camera. So right there is your on and off button. Right next to it is your mode button, which allows you to select what mode you want to be in. So you can select the manual mode, you could select the manual video mode. Basically, you could select what mode you want to be in from this button right there. Right next to it is your video recording button, and on top of it is your the button you press when you want to take a picture. You could also use that button to zoom in and zoom out while you're in picture mode or while you're in video mode. Anyways guys, I guess that's the end of this video. Will I recommend this camera for a newbie? Yes. Will I recommend this camera for a pro? If you're looking for a device that you just want to use to play around and not to use for your professional photography, then I highly recommend this camera. But yeah, it's a beautiful camera and I've had an absolutely wonderful experience using it. If you have this camera and you currently use it to film your videos or take your pictures, let me know in the comment section down below what you love about this camera. And if you're thinking of getting this camera, let me know if there are any questions that you want me to answer before you make that choice, before you take that leap of faith, before you decide to purchase the Sony ZV-1. Anyways guys, that's the end of this video. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I guess I'll see you in my next video. Bye. Bye.